A warm welcome to all of our ISM members, our chapter partners, and guests to today's program. Please be sure to utilize our chat or Q&A area for any questions you might have for our speakers today. I will be recording this program and will send out it later today with your CEH, and everybody will get a copy of the slides as well. Our topic today is implementing coaching skills to support supply chain management professionals. Our speakers are Dr. Peter O'Reilly and Dr. Rachel Vigness. Both are associate professors at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. I will now turn the program over to Peter and Rachel.
Thank you, Kathy. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. And we have a topic that is we found very important, particularly in the last couple of years with COVID, pandemic, business conditions, and giving our employees some extra benefits. A little background on myself. As Kathy said, I'm an associate professor and a certified coach at Embry-Riddle. And prior to that, in my business life, I was chief procurement officer. And I'm currently director at the ISM Arizona affiliate. Rachel?
Yes, hello, good afternoon, good morning, and evening for those that are joining across the world. My name is Dr. Rachel Vigness, and I am also associate professor and director of student success and communication here in the College of Business at Embry-Riddle. We have successfully undergone a coaching effort here in the college for since about 2018. So we've done this for a number of years. And the one thing that we've learned along the way is that this skill set can be applied to so many different industries, to include logistics and supply chain. So again, we're more than happy to be here today and to share with you a little bit more about what we've learned along the way. Peter, you want to talk about what we'll cover today?
Okay. What is coaching? Here's the agenda, as you can read. Why is coaching important? And we'll talk about that. What is coaching? Because there's a lot of misconceptions, particularly what's the difference between coaching and mentoring? We'll talk about that. And how can coaching help? As I said earlier, we found since the last 4 years that coaching has been a significant help to students and professionals who are struggling either with life situations or academic situations, and who can benefit from coaching, and that's a wide variety of people. And when to start coaching and recommendations, so we'll talk about those. Those are key points we're going to talk to. Let me ask you a question, and if you could put your hands up or whatever. Anybody out there have you been a coach, or have you been a coach, or you've been coached by somebody? Could you give me a raise of hands to see how many people who have experienced coaching? Kathy, are you seeing hands up?
Yes, we have it keeps going up, about 16 right now.
Okay. Okay. And we'll talk a little bit about your experiences in a few minutes on that. That's good. Because I'd like to know what your experience has been as well. If you'd like to make this as interactive as possible in this session. So next slide. So why coaching is relevant today in the world of supply chain management? As I mentioned earlier, the negative impacts of the pandemic, economic conditions, and personal aspects of remote workplace on morale and productivity, and to reconnect the personal interaction. We have, in terms of the university, we've had remote learning for a lot of years, and one of the biggest drawbacks has been the personal touch, lack of thereof. And while online learning has its benefits in terms of being available when you need it, students have constantly complained about missing out on having some kind of interaction with whoever's teaching the course on that. And the same thing with people working from remote locations. I think that is a difficulty. Well, it has its benefits. You're staying at home, you're having your coffee, you're seeing your family, but interacting with your associates. For instance, we have not been together, my colleagues and I, for 3 years on site with COVID, and we're looking forward to October being together. But I've had experience in the world of supply chain management coaching. I didn't realize it was coaching, but now I see it as coaching. What always got me is that one of the people in my organization, supply chain management organization, would come into my office and close the door. Never a good sign. Closing the door, what does that mean? You could run the full gamut of things on that. And they would talk about something was going on, either on the job or at home. And we'll talk a bit about this in terms of what you cannot do, what you should not be doing in coaching. But I didn't realize, now I do, that they were asking for some kind of objective views on what they were doing on that. So that's important I call it caring, to show people, whether they're across the world, across the country, or whatever, on that, is to touch base with them. And I think coaching is a great way of doing that, of saying, do you need to talk about something? And one of the things we'll talk about is, too, in the coaching session, the professional person, supply chain manager, sets the agenda. What they'll tell you what they want to talk about. I'm not telling anybody what we should talk about. So they set the agenda. They set, and that's important too, because they know what's important. Next slide.
Before I pull up that next slide, Peter, let's watch a short little video that shows some coaching examples, ones that people might resonate or relate to. I'll pull that up just momentarily here.
Moments are born from great opportunity.
You shouldn't have any doubt in your mind about what you're supposed to do tonight and about how you're supposed to do it.
This is your time.
No, I don't want them to gain another yard.
We got to go out there and we got to take it.
You take their game and you shove it right back in their face.
That's how winning is done.
Team is something you belong to, something you feel, something you have to earn.
If we don't come together,
It's over.
And I guarantee a week won't go by in your life you won't regret walking out, letting them get the best of it.
I'll ask you one last time.
to be the best that you can be.
Play like champions.
Win. It's about heart. It's about who can go out there and play the hardest.
It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
I don't care what the scoreboard says at the end of the game. In my book, we're going to be winners.
In any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die,
willing to take the hits,
who's going to win that inch.
Let me tell you something, you don't let anything, nothing, come between us.
On this team, we fight.
And we shut them down because we can.
So many fantastic coaching examples there. I've been fortunate to have fantastic coaches supporting me in different places of my life. Many of you probably have as well. I know Peter mentioned or asked the question earlier, and 16 people perhaps have found themselves in that coaching role. Yeah, somebody asked the question, women coaches, absolutely. Again, supporting us along the way. They help us motivate to overcome, and ultimately they help us to be our best. And of course, examples there in the athletic industry, but again, the effort can extend so much further than that. So many of you might have experienced coaching in the past. What is the difference between a coach and a mentor? Well, we have, through this experience working with students, we've learned that coaching typically is relationships that are set to achieve, sorry, can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Relationships
Yes.
set to achieve some sort of task or effort that is set out. It's to overcome a challenge. It's to create an opportunity to achieve a specific goal. Coaching establishes that expectation at the beginning, and then once that goal has been achieved or the challenge has been overcome, typically that relationship ends. Conversely, mentors are more so developmental in nature. They will typically follow their mentees through their career. And in most cases, there isn't a specific end in mind. So if I had to kind of, quickly summarize again, this difference, I might say that a mentor is somebody who is a role model, somebody who is set out to share their knowledge, their skills, their experience that they've had with another person. Whereas a coach doesn't necessarily have to be a subject matter expert, and that's kind of an important factor to think about as we talk through our conversation today. Rather, a coach is there to give that support and help really coachees find their own answers to the challenges or the goals that they want to set out to achieve. Peter, did you have anything more to mention on this coaching versus mentoring conversation?
Yeah, and mostly you can probably relate to this. When you come into a new company, somebody's assigned to fill you in on the culture, or even how to do your job, whatever. As you move up in the ranks and you get to a new occupation, again, somebody could be assigned to you to help you learn a new skill or whatever it might be on that. And the coach tends to be, from my experience, just talking about life goals, business goals, whatever, in those areas, not really directly related to how do I do my job better? How do I better understand the company better?
Hi, Rachel and Peter. There is one question. Are there any examples of women coaches out there?
Are you talking about professional or somebody actually coaching people? What we're talking about today?
Joan, if you could put that in the chat.
Like coaching a professional team or coaching people individually?
Yeah, because I'm not sure if Joan was referring to the video.
And I believe so, probably because I think the question did come in right around that one time. Although again, the video perhaps did not display any visuals of that. Again, I can speak for one to say that I've had fantastic support from both females and males in both my career and academic background. So to that point, yes, although the video didn't reflect that, certainly we can look across the world today and see plenty of examples of females playing that role of support. And actually, it's actually a perfect segue into this conversation about what is a coach and really what can we accomplish with these, with these conversations about what a coach is set out to do. That person is somebody that is there to identify, along with the coachee, what the problem is, what the opportunity, what dreams that an individual might want to achieve. They are there to listen and to guide our employees, in this case, to help them better understand the issues at hand, better understand the potential, solutions to that. And then when we're doing that, we end up giving that coachee a real clear path forward, right? So it's a way that we can help them to discover what it is that they might do as a next step, if you will. And then one of the most important things that I relish in these coaching relationships is we get to celebrate with our employees, along the way. We get to recognize when an achievement is, when a breakthrough has happened. And again, in these efforts, we can, know that we've accomplished something really great together. So just kind of curious, and the chat might be a good place to answer this question. Does anyone have any examples of what type of work situations a coach, and by situations, I'm more so speaking to an obstacle, or a barrier, or even perhaps a goal that somebody wants to achieve. Can you think of any work where a employee might come to you and ask for assistance or ask you to be a coach? Any examples of any situations?
Just put it in the chat.
I know within the context of higher education, time management ends up being a big one that I know many of our students come to, whether it's Peter in his role as a faculty, and mentioned, especially with our students being non-traditional, many of them being non-traditional, it becomes, how can I balance work and school and family? And so again, we can have that conversation around ways in which time management can be utilized. Some other ideas that are coming in here, coaching an individual on being focused, absolutely. Some skill sets or some tools that they might use to be more focused in their work. Helping to move to a different department, so career transition, absolutely a good opportunity for coaching. Again, each of those elements being ones where it can, have a specific beginning and an end. So those certainly applicable for coaching. Time management, Susie mentions, prioritization, goal setting. Yes, absolutely. Conflict, managing conflict and building relationships.
What did Susie say? She had four new employees. Could we give Susie the mic? I think I have 4.2 were new to the job. One is pretty new. We're doing a lot of training and coaching about their new roles now. Do you think that's coaching or mentoring, Susie?
Well, that's Joan.
I think it was
I'm sorry, Joan. Joan, what do you think? Is that mentoring or coaching? What coaching do you think you do for those four new employees? Can we give it a mic?
Yes,
Joan?
yes.
If you would, Joan. You mute. Okay, Joan.
Okay, now I'm unmuted.
Good. Thank you.
I think it's a little bit of everything, because they're learning the job, but they're also learning how to interact with their internal clients and what kinds of things work and what doesn't work. They just have so many questions about what to do and how to do things. So yeah, I don't know. It's just a lot of work with them right now.
I think that's good. It's almost like you're creating a culture for the new employees, because usually people come from other companies with a completely different culture. What's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and sitting down. And so I think what coaching really comes into play is explaining not just how to do your job, but also explaining. And when I say culture, it doesn't have to be a corporate culture. It could be a departmental culture, a sectional culture, whatever it is. Because I know in the world of supply chain management, we created a culture that was, well, it was on target with the corporate, but it was a little different, a little bit more personable and open to dialogues rather than monologues when somebody had an issue or something like that. I think just knowing that somebody's out there, I think is important to go to. Oh, I think the faculty benefited from the coaching initiative when we spearheaded in COB a few years ago. As somewhere not familiar with coaching versus mentoring. That's the whole world seems to be mixed up in terms of mentoring and coaching. So we've seen Rachel and I where people call it coaching, but it's mentoring, or call it mentoring, actually coaching. But I think the key thing is just making sure that somebody who has some issues, some concerns, that they know that they can talk to somebody about that objectively. Next slide. Thanks, Joan, by the way. And this is just going over some things that are really true. And you all brought up too, from my experience and what type of coaching I've done for the people in supply chain management. And you mentioned a lot of these skill building, professional development, leadership development, career progression. When's my next promotion? You know, you just got one 2 weeks ago. When's my next one? Those always are funny. Time management. The two biggest, I would say in my experience, the two biggest coaching issues that I've encountered with professionals has been time management and communications. Not enough with communications, quality, quantity, and with time management. It's as simple as this: giving people in your organization the idea that not everything is an A priority. I do the ABC priorities. I have a book right next to me with the task I have to do, and I do ABC, and that seems to come up a lot. How do I get through all my tasks? And I said, well, try the ABC. Well, everything's important. Well, not everything is an A priority. You know, that has to be done today, and B can be done today or tomorrow, and C can be done when you get around to it. And simple things like that. When you go into a coaching program, it's like, oh, I didn't realize that, and so you're reinforcing some of your best practices when you do a coaching session to people that it could be rather simple. Like I just mentioned, the priorities in terms of, you know, A, B, and C. Okay, next slide. This is just some testimonials. One of the things that I try to do with coaching people, professionals, students, faculty, management people, I want to know how effective the coaching session has been. You know, I might think it went well. The coachee, as we call them, might have a different point of view. So I tend to ask the folks that I coach to give me a short email on what they get out of it. And you can see here, sometimes you get a paragraph, sometimes you get a couple of sentences on that. And I think it's important. What has been your experience, folks, on this with coaching? You get who's coached, or who's been coached? Do you feel like it's served a purpose? If you could give us some examples of as a coach, did you feel like you accomplished something, or as a coachee, did you feel that that session accomplished something for you? Somebody want to chat, and we'll give you the mic. Because you know, we had several people who have been coached, who have been a coach, and who wants to talk about it? What do we have? Dr. Cheryl Lentz, I think I know you.
Did you want me to give the mic to Cheryl?
Go ahead. Welcome, Cheryl.
Let me see if I can find her. There she is. Okay.
Let's try this again. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Outstanding. How is everybody in there? Nice to see you, Dr. Peter. And I was referring to my mentors for my doctoral students. I've been doing this for about 15 years. And it's amazing how much that personalized attention, sometimes coaching on skills, sometimes mentoring on motivation and long-term career goals, and sometimes just trying to get their act together for school life balance is really where my focus tends to be with my students.
Thank you. Thanks, Cheryl. Jorge, did you have something you wanted to say? Jorge?
Just give me 1 second. I have to get to him.
Okay.
Okay, you should have the mic.
Okay. Where are you?
Oh, he has to unmute himself.
Okay. Come in, Jorge.
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Tell us about your coaching experience.
So I think that, I mean, I've had
multiple ones, but I think that the key objective and what has been the most rewarding is that, while we're getting to accomplish what it is that we're doing, there's something that we have learned in the process, both the coachee as well as the coach, right? And that feels rewarding because at the end it affects, the career, path of both individuals, right?
Yes. Yeah. Susie. How about Susie Frieda? Could you give us your?
Okay, I'm getting Susie right now.
You're doing a heck of a job, Kathy. Heck of a job.
Trying.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Ah, perfect. Okay, yeah. What I've found as far as coaching is concerned, to be, most successful is, well, first of all, you have to assume that the person who's being coached is interested in being coached and therefore wants to create some sort of change and therefore is committing to what I call the homework, although I did have someone tell me that they didn't like homework in school, so to call it something else. So whether it's homework or action items or whatever, and to have enough time in between your sessions so that you have time to actually action some of those steps. So it's really, for me, in the experience that I've had, it's about setting clear objectives with relative start and end dates, and then ensuring that you're doing checkpoints on those things. So as a coach, I'll take notes on what the actions should be so that the next time we connect, after exchanging niceties, it's more like, okay, these were your three objectives, tell me what's happening, but these were your three objectives from last meeting. Where are we? And if the person is motivated, which you assume if they're requesting coaching, they are, then they'll certainly see that progress. And then once those goals are at a point where those checkpoints may not be necessary, that's when I would close a relationship, but of course, open it, and, feel free to reach out at any time if we need to kind of regroup.
Susie, those are excellent points, because one of the things, having gone through a 22-week coaching training program, I'm lucky I survived it. It was every Monday night for a couple of hours. But one of the key things they stress is that whoever you're coaching needs to set the agenda, needs to set the objectives that they hope to achieve, when they hope to achieve it, when the next meeting is. Because you made a good point in terms of, is it homework? Are they thinking of this as homework? Even if they come up with what they think they need to do in the next 2 weeks. You don't want to have that kind of relationship, because then it's sour, because then they have to do it rather than they want to do it. And so, because I've had students, Susie, as you said, who came to me for a coaching session, and 5 minutes into it, I get the feeling like they really don't have an agenda. They just want to bounce some things off me, but they don't want to maybe do any of the hard work, as you talked about, for the change. They recognize the change, but they don't want to take the next step to get that change squared away. That's a good point. Thank you, Susie. Rachel, you have something you want to add to that?
No, I think just to mention and to kind of recap the conversation around that willingness to put in the hard work, to know that somebody is in your corner, kind of giving you those little nudges along the way. Again, Susie, you illustrated perfectly, some of the key elements of what it takes to have a successful coaching relationship. So thank you for sharing.
And I think one of the great aspects of being a coach, and you all have that, we all have experience. No matter what you're doing in life, we all have experience. I found that sharing that experience with a coachee is very important. Now, if you looked at the testimonials here, that's just a few of them up here. Because I really, I spent an hour, whatever it might be, 45 minutes with somebody, and I don't know what they're thinking, what they're going through. So, and that's why I think the testimonial is important, because I also share with anybody who's thinking about on my coaching site who might want to coach, because I want to give them, just like we said earlier, not everybody knows, but most people don't know what a coaching session is. a correct coaching session. So giving them some kind of insight in terms of what other coachees have gotten out of it important. Next slide. Let me see. Next slide.
I think for the next one, Peter, we have an example of one of your happy coaches. Let's see.
Okay. Oh, now that's somebody I just coached last week. You know, he was very talkative, and he didn't give me any lip, but he gave me a flipper or two. Okay, and he wanted to be coached, and I spent a few minutes coaching him. And next slide. And there's a satisfied. This is the best you can possibly get from somebody when you've done it. Well, maybe you don't want it from everybody, but that's Charlotte, and she got coached by me, and that's the reward she gave me. So I appreciate that. It's better than writing a testimonial, by the way. So next slide. Okay, who should be and I think it was mentioned by a couple of you. Not everybody wants to be coached. Not everybody should be coached. Not every person wants to be coached or should be coached. I put down and Rachel wouldn't know why I put this down, but because having been responsible for some SCM organizations, I said, not a boss, why not? Because sometimes it depends on what you want to be coached on. Sometimes you feel funny about going to your boss and with let's say a personal situation, a life situation. You want to share that with your boss who does your evaluations and stuff like that, or you're showing somebody that you have a weakness or whatever it might be. So it all depends on who the boss is, who the leader is on that. And most people know if they can go to the boss about a personal situation or even a job situation. It all depends on that. And we trained, I think, about 28 people back in 2018 to be coaches, and I probably think 14 of them became effective coaches. I think the others probably didn't. We didn't ask. We said, okay, we got this coaching program, and you're going to go to it, sort of. And I think probably we were new to coaching, and probably not the approach that we would have taken today if we wanted to expand the coaching program, which we probably would on that. So as I said, you have to sort of make sure that somebody really wants to be a coach, and because it becomes a fun process. And it's one of the most gratifying situations I had when I was in supply chain management and now in university, when you see those testimonials kind of comments on that you really made a difference to somebody who was struggling with something, a life or business situation. And you've done something within that 45 minutes or an hour to help them clear up situations. You don't make any recommendations as a coach. That's a tough thing to do. For instance, somebody asked me, should I go for my CPSM or should I go for my master's? Okay. They wanted to know my feedback on that, my recommendation on that. And I said, what do you feel would help you best on your job? And whatever you feel best for, what's best for your job and your time commitment, that's your decision. And I did it too with somebody who wanted to know about going for a PMP in project management or go for that master's. And I said, same thing. What both involves and the time commitment, whatever it might be. So I can't tell you I can't tell you what to do. I can give you the pluses and minuses of both, but you have to make that decision. So I think that's one of the points when you do coaching is avoid that situation. Rachel, you're up.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about, what is coaching? What are some applications for it? What does the process, kind of look like high level? But for those that are relatively unfamiliar with coaching, both being a coach and being coached, here are just a few elements, some general commitments that you might find or consider as you enter into one or both of these types of roles. First and foremost, as Peter mentioned, and some of the examples that were shared, you have to be willing to help. You have to be willing to kind of get in the corner and give that support along the way to the coachees that you're working with. You have to be able to to challenge those individuals to really, again, discover all the different options that are available, to have that conversation around, what are the pros and the cons, and you do that through inquisition, through questions. Again, this is where the conversation happens. It's not a recommendation, but it's more so, as Peter was just saying, a conversation around what the possibilities could look like. And last, and Susie mentioned this in her example just earlier, you have to, have that accountability, so that when that coachee comes back, that there's a conversation around what worked, what didn't, what additional challenges or next steps might we want to tackle next. So holding the coachee accountable to those next steps, offering that support, and keeping that coachee focused are roles that are really important if you find yourself in that coach side of the table. On the other hand,
Rachel, if I could jump in for a second.
Yeah,
Go back to the slide. Go back to the slide. One of the things I've learned as a CPO, when somebody comes into my office and closes the door, as I said before, you never know what to expect. One of the things that strongly stressed when I went through the coaching training program, there are certain topics that you should not get involved with coaching. Addictions, abuse, family abuse, personal things that better served by somebody in HR or the employee advisory services or that have most companies have that, because you don't want to get involved with that, because you're not a psychiatrist, a psychologist, you're not a counselor, and you have your limitations on that. So I've had those situations come to me, and I really had to say, I feel for you, but I'll walk you up to employee advisory, help you and talk to them, because they're trained professionals in that field. Thanks, Rachel.
Yeah, good point. And actually, as you establish these coaching relationships, that's where that agenda, and whether it's a formal agenda or again just the conversation, what does the coachee want to accomplish? That's where that initial conversation becomes so important, so that you can make sure, as Peter's mentioning, that we give that individual the best support that we can, whether it's again through that coaching relationship or whether it's other external or internal resources to the organization that are better suited for those unique scenarios that an individual might come to you with. So again, from the coachee's standpoint, again, that person that is looking for that assistance, that support along the way, that individual should be coming prepared, knowing what they want to accomplish, or at least having an idea for some of the challenges that they're facing, and then we can problem solve to figure out what is the root cause of the issues, so we can really tackle those. The coachee, has to commit, much like we were saying earlier with the coach, to a level of honesty. And this is where, again, sometimes it's important to figure out who is best to serve in that coach role, to make sure that the employee or the coachee in this case can be honest and can be open to new ideas without feeling like they must address a certain chain of command or what have you. Again, this is all about trying to unlock potential and really explore different ideas. And last but not least, and this goes back to Susie's example earlier, they have to be willing to do the work, put in the time, be accountable to overcoming and to truly discovering their true potential through action, through that next step, if you will. Anything further on what it looks like to be in the coachee seat, Peter?
Just you're going to have people in your supply chain management organization or any place on that is sometimes you can tell looking at them that there's something troubling them, and you really want them to sign up to be a coach, be coached on that, but you can't force the issue, and you basically, I have to say, I'm available if you'd like to have talk to me about something, and sometimes they will and sometimes they don't. I think being objective, goes a long way for somebody coming to you as a coach. You say, could you have a few minutes to talk about something? Because it's happened to me in my business career in supply chain management. They're looking for somebody to talk to help them out. They can't talk to their spouse, partner, family members, work associates, friends. You might be that objective source that they could talk to, and somebody will listen to them and not make recommendations, but I think just talking things out sometimes is a big plus. That's it, Rachel.
Perfect. So in terms of how the conversation might flow or might look like, again, where possible, the conversation should be grounded in some sort of goal. What is because this goes back to how do we know that the coaching relationship is working and or eventually meets that end point, if you will, and we can do that through establishing what is it that the coachee is wanting, what is it that the employee wants to accomplish. SMART goals, again, pretty familiar to most in the group here, I'm certain, but do make sure that where possible, they're specific, again, measurable, achievable, realistic, but risky. Again, push that coachee to really uncover what they truly are capable of doing. So yes, those goals might be realistic, but ensure that there is some some push. That's where, again, that athletic coach is taking that athlete to the next level. And that's really what we want to do for our employees as well. And then again, when do these goals need to, should be accomplished by, should be an element that we want to think about when we talk about those goals. So that sets the stage for what needs to be accomplished through those coaching conversations. From here, you might discuss, what is the reality of the situation. So this might be a conversation around what obstacles are in the way, what resources might be needed to truly, accomplish this specific goal. And then from there, you can talk about different options that the employee has in terms of, we all know that there's multiple different ways to solve a problem. So again, the conversation can then center around, what are the ideal, what are the pros, what are the cons, and again, together that conversation can center on, okay, this is the next steps. This is what we'll be expecting to happen, and then we'll come back. We'll have a conversation. We'll follow up, and we'll determine what does that need to look like. So, Peter, I know you've worked through this process many times, both in professional and in the academic setting, but can you share some of the lessons learned that you might have seen over and throughout the years in your coaching experiences?
Yeah, next slide. Thank you, Richard. It would always amaze me when I coached. I had people reporting to me around the country, and I would have conversations with them that I didn't realize they were coaching sessions, but just like one-on-ones with them. So I'll share some of what I got out of those coaching sessions. But coaching provides a conduit for ideas, support, and forward direction. Yeah, it's a springboard for ideas that people might feel frustrated about. Why not? Why are we doing this, or why can't we do that? And you would think, well, why didn't they bring it up to the supervisor or something? But maybe it's personality conflict, or whatever it might be. Coaching also shows, we've said this a few times, that somebody cares about the individual. We're asking them if they need some help on something. And personally, next one, it helped me out a lot. It allowed me to better understand the working conditions, because I came into a situation in New England where I went up there. I usually visited every couple of months, and I had one-on-ones, coaching sessions with some of the people up there. And it was people weren't talking much. They were giving me these dagger looks, and something's wrong someplace. And I was looking for somebody to break the ice, so I got everybody together in the room. I said, "What's going on?" And it was a situation of harassment from the manager, and and so we identified that situation. We took actions right away, and it's something that you wouldn't see on the surface of things, but the coaching sessions brought something up so we could do something about the individual was terminated, obviously, but we got it done because of the coaching session. And coaching, this came into effect quite often to life conditions. You fully see people maybe have dropped off on their performance, and you don't know why. That person's always been a good performer. There's something going on there. And I found that if somebody wants to open up on a coaching session, finding out that they were having family problems, something with their partner or their children or whatever was causing them to be very concerned about something. So, we talked about things. So next I sent them up to employee advisory to see what any benefits they can do about that. So, because that was always a nice area to, if you can't handle something, you don't want to handle something, somebody else can do it for you. And as Rachel said before, it's important, whether you're the boss of the organization or you're somebody of leadership role that somebody wants to be coaching with, I want you to coach them, knowing right off the bat that it's confidential. You're not going to tell anybody else what's going on, because that otherwise it defeats the coaching situation. And you get a reputation. If you one time talk to somebody about what went on a coaching session, that gets out and nobody really wants to be coached anymore on that. So how do you feel about that? Anybody have experience like that in terms of work conditions or something that's hindering that came out in the coaching session, something that could help the person move forward? Anybody have any examples they want to talk about? Anybody? Example, I'm looking at the chat session. Something you discovered that really helped the organization from a coaching session? I don't see any. Next slide, if you would. Recommendations.
Yes. So I guess at this point, if some of this conversation around coaching sounds of interest to you, and it might, you might be thinking in your mind, how do we make this happen within my organization, within your job, or maybe even in your personal life. Here are just a few kind of things to consider as next steps then in that way. First and foremost, articulate the why behind coaching. So in other words, find ways to connect coaching to the organization's mission, find ways to connect it to the support of the strategic plan of the organization. And then you can find greater support for that, both in terms of individuals that want to participate, as well as those that are going to serve as champions for the effort within the organization. So certainly articulate the why, embrace and model the behavior. So if you want people that are in your discipline, in your department to embrace coaching, first you got to embrace it yourself. And again, this can extend to being open to, being coached. So serving in that coachy role, we can all find areas for improvement, whether it's personal, professional, life coaching. This again, so many different opportunities that we as individuals can find our coaching a benefit. And so modeling the behavior helps to kind of just walk the walk and show that you're willing to support others in that same way. You'll certainly want to figure out ways to build those coaching skills. So much like the workshop today, or encouraging staff to participate in other webinars, sessions, tools that they can build along the way, also help and support ways in which individuals can build coaching skills. We happen to I found one through LinkedIn Learning. There's a LinkedIn Learning path. I believe the name of it is Improve Your Skills as a Manager. And perhaps at the end of the session here, I can share the link in the chat if any of you have access to LinkedIn Learning and wish to learn more about the coaching philosophies, techniques, and things of that nature. Again, it's about a 5-hour learning path, but you can take it on demand as your time is available.
And you can earn a certificate.
And very true. Good point. There is a certificate for completing that learning path at the end. So, but again, many different training opportunities. The web has a plethora of information about coaching, performance coaching, business coaching, within the context of organizational improvement. So, and last but not least, remove those barriers. So this might be an exercise of identifying and removing those quote unquote old habits and adopt a new way of thinking, kind of that coaching oriented approach, if you will. You can practice asking questions in and outside coaching relationships, but questions like, what are you trying to do? What's working? What is not working? How can I help? Those kind of inquisitive questions help us to kind of get into that coaching mindset. And from personal experience, I can share that it's been helpful both for both the profession and me as an individual and mom, and it can help in the personal life as well. So with that, those are some recommendations if you're new to coaching and want to incorporate it into your environment. We will share some resources at the end, both some reading and then some a handout or takeaway that Kathy can share with the group at the end. But at this point, we can open the floor up to any questions. We have just a few minutes left. So again, thank you. Peter, did you have any final thoughts?
No, we have, as Rachel said, we have some coaching resource links that you can look at, and particular one in the middle, thinking and learning. We're doing a coaching program for folks in Singapore, and part of the 3 training processes. The middle step is that to get a certificate, go into that thinking and learning 5-hour multiple sessions and get that certificate. So it's some good stuff there. Any other last questions for us? Thank you for
Peter and
participating.
Rachel, what would be the best way for people to contact you if they would like to connect with you?
It's none of their business. No, I'm sorry. We should have put down, I apologize. We should have put down our contact information. Also, Rachel and I emails. You can with Kathy, can we send that out?
Yes.
To the people? Our email address is on that. And if anybody's interested in the coaching training program that I went to by CTA, I could put them in touch with somebody from CTA if they want to go through the process. I don't know if it's still 22 weeks. Like I said, it's 2 hours a week for 22 weeks. Sounds like a lot, and it was a lot. But anyway, we have that in the future. If you have any questions about coaching, once you get our contact information, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Tell us how you did with coaching too. You did some coaching. Coaching is something that evolves. You get better at it as the more you do coaching on that. You know what pitfalls to avoid, speed bumps to avoid as well. Okay, you're down there twice. You're a popular guy. I see 2. You couldn't get enough of us, so you had to get down twice.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I want to say thank you to Peter and Rachel for a very informative presentation. I love having the audience participate as well. That made it even more enjoyable and I think a better learning experience as well for everybody. Again, I want to thank everybody. I just want to do one brief announcement. Our next program is going to be next week, July 20th, our Voice of Supply Chain. Our special guest is going to be Purvi Kondel. So at this point, I'm going to close the program over. And I'd like to say thank you once again and have a great day, everybody. Thanks again, Peter and Rachel.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye, everybody.